This is the Afro Perspective Podcast, the home of over-opinionated young voices.
So what we're talking about.
Bro, you said you wanted.
Okay, so I had words that came to me today, you know. And what were the words again? The hood is not a place.
It's a mindset.
The hood is a state of mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. What did you mean by that?
When I listen to a lot of what I would term struggle music, right? Rappers out there always say, you know, I had to do this, I had to do that to survive, blah, blah, blah. It had me thinking, like, what is the hood in the UK? And what is poverty?
I said you get benefits. How can that ever be?
Here in the UK? Where do we, draw the line to say, okay, then yeah, you had to go sell drugs. You had to go, do this because you came from a quote unquote poor background or you're a product of your environment.
Okay, they're two different things. So I think the notion of I needed to sell drugs for this and that and that. Obviously, there are individual circumstances where people's maybe parents have let them down, and I kind of understand how you can fall into that scenario. But if we're just talking on a clean slate basis, I don't really ever think there is a need. And when I say just a blank slate, but you live in a council estate and you're on benefits, I don't think there's ever a need to actually go and sell narcotics, because you should be able to survive, because there are other places in the world where people have far less.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Out of the people that's involved in the narcotics trade or that are involved in gangs, etc., what percentage would you say are from circumstances that would actually warrant them to do that, and what percentage would you say are in?
I'm not going to answer
on the streets.
I'm not going to answer that question. What I'm going to say is the people that I know personally, is in like people that I know, that I've grown up with and I've seen go down that path. Literally, maybe one of those people were in dire sick circumstances where they actually needed to make money. You know, them ones.
Most of the road man don't come from circumstances where they actually had the opportunities, but they chose the roads because it was fashionable, because of the lifestyle.
Yeah, I think because we live in a society where it's more money. Need this. I can't wear gold trainers because they're not cool, and I can't wear £5 trousers. Because remember, let's keep it real. In today's society, you can dress yourself for cheap if you really want to. Yeah. In today's society, you can feed yourself for cheap. We have budget supermarkets. In today's society, you can live somewhere for cheap, like cheapish. So it's one of the ones where it's like, okay, what are you really doing this for? Are you doing this because you actually need to, or are you doing this because you...
For sure.
Yeah, want to.
So do you think that the narrative that the youths end up taking up this lifestyle because there's no opportunities is actually true, or is it a farce?
I think it is the same scenario as the American guy that never leaves his block. So you only know what surrounds you. So some people, humans, for some strange reason, seem to be village pockets. No, I noticed this when I went to university, and I don't know if you may or may not know this, but obviously when I went to university, I left where I came from. And then when I went back, those same people were doing the same things, and they never really had a vision of outside of Wagwan around that scenario. So if you grow up in an area where drugs and gang violence is prevalent, and you think, oh yeah, that's just what it is, then it's kind of goes to what you say. It's a state of mind because they then just think, okay, this is what it is. So this is what I'm going to do because this is how I see things.
What is considered the hood over here, though?
The hood.
Where is the hood?
This is why I had to. I think that's why it came
let's
to me
break that
to
down.
say the hood is a state of mind, because when you look back, I seen there was some celebrity guy on the Shade Borough that had his flipping
What did he have? His postcode tattooed or something?
postcode and estate name tattooed on his neck or whatever.
Tires.
Which I think is absolutely pathetic. But what made black youths have this attachment to their areas that would almost sort of perpetuate this violence between areas, i.e. this postcode war.
I don't think it's just black youths. I think that's a socio-economic standpoint. So I think that people who feel like they have little feel like they need to protect their area for the little that they have, even though they don't actually own it. So from a middle class perspective or an educated perspective, the whole thing looks very dull.
What are they actually protecting?
They're not protecting anything. But I remember growing up in Goldhay in Peterborough, for example, and there would be the Viran's lot, and this is your area. And if the man then from Autumn Malbourne came down, we'd run them out. If the man then from Autumn, if from whatever area came out, you'd run them out because this is art. You can't come around here.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. But when you look at it now, it's like, why do you feel that way? I have no idea where it came from. I have no idea where it stemmed from. But I guess once you're immersed into it, so this is what it is, isn't it?
So the worst thing is a lot of these areas that people have this attachment to they eventually get gentrified. I mean, look at Pitsmoor. Pitsmoor's not what Pitsmoor used to be.
Look at stocks and shares. The price of property will go down when it gets run down. Rich people will buy it up
and then
clean it up.
Yep.
And the whole area will rise.
Yeah.
And they make money and they continue and go on. And what ends up happening is people get further and further displaced.
Displaced, yeah.
Yes. So it is definitely a state of mind. My issue is I don't know where it came from. Because it's before my time. Maybe we need to do some research.
There was a time when there was a need for men to go out there and find other means of making money because there was, it was generally hard to get a job and the benefit system probably didn't necessarily protect. There wasn't fair financial inclusion.
Right.
But in the last 20, 30 years...
Pretty much as long as we've been.
Yeah, as long as we've been alive, there's been financial inclusion. So, i.e., if you grew up on this estate and your parents were on benefits or whatever, it's not the best case scenario. But when you talk about poverty and you hear these youths singing the raps, or you hear people say, I had to do this because I grew up poor or whatever. Were you really poor? Did you really not have, because this is the thing, we live in England, right? Mm-hmm. Education's free. Healthcare is free. Housing is free.
If you're on benefits, it is.
Yeah. You're on benefits, it's free.
So you literally just have to get food. Gas and electricity.
Right?
It's food, gas and electricity.
Education, as much as it was free, a lot of these youths that say we didn't have opportunities, they were given the opportunity to go to school.
They just chose.
But then again, it goes down to the parents as well, where the parents focused on education.
This hits home so hard. So I know my name. Yeah, and I promise you, I saw a guy the other day. He was pretty close to me, actually, in fact, and he wrote, I got it from the mud. You know that statement, I got it from the mud?
Yeah.
Bro, I can promise you, this he comes from a single parent family, but this man's mom working full time. He had, when the PlayStation came out, he had the PlayStation. She lived in a decent area. Mm-hmm. There was there. And he still ended up going down that road because he chose to. Now, don't get me wrong.
No, stop right there. Sorry. In fact, I'll let you land, but there's a point right there.
Okay, remember what I said then. Okay, but I do understand that in some of these areas, whenever you get, crime and socio-economic factors obviously play a part. So just because we're saying that you shouldn't technically ever really be poor if you're on benefits, blah, 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 blah. But there are circumstances external circumstances that could prevent that. So, you know, if your mum and dad is a crackhead, for example, there might not be any money in your house, and you therefore then desensitized to drugs and whatever else and gang culture. So then I can see very easily how you would fall into that lifestyle, and A, to feed yourself and those around you, and B, because drugs are not quite such a big deal.
That's a small bracket.
No, I don't know if it's a small bracket. I just know that does happen. So we can't ignore that. But for the whole, if you're talking about actual poverty in the UK, it's hard because, as you say, if you're on benefits and you've got a house, then your house is paid for. You don't have to worry about school. You don't have to worry about dental or hospital. So you literally only have to worry about food and gas and electricity. So if you've managed your money correctly, then generally in most places in the UK, I don't know too much about London, I know it's a bit more expensive, you should be okay. So it's definitely a state of mind to say that I'm poor, because if you go to other countries where you don't have these institutions set up that will actually help you, when you don't have the money, you just don't have the money.
That's your poverty.
Yeah, it's poverty. And in some of those places, you'll still find some of the nicest people in the world not doing the fuckeries that are being kept up in the UK and America.
So, you made a point. And the part that stood out to me was raised by a single mom, but he got everything.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that is part of the problem.
Here we go. Go ahead.
I believe that single moms especially have a tendency to outdo themselves to provide their children.
He doesn't need anything because he's got everything.
Yeah, he doesn't want for anything. And it's a good thing, but it also creates unrealistic expectations. So you're going to have this kid that's been raised wearing the latest Nike or Jordans. He's got the latest games console and is being showered with presents or whatever, but never really been taught about responsibility. So when they go out there now and they start seeing their older peers that are wearing, you know, Balenciagas or whatever, they want this. When they look on the media and they see these rappers, they aspire to this lifestyle that they're already almost accustomed to. But the problem is, they haven't necessarily got the skills to earn a decent living that would enable them to acquire these things. So they end up seeking an easy route, which is glorified as well. And also there's the element of grooming.
It's a whole subject in itself.
Yeah, it's a whole subject in itself, but there's an element of older men who groom younger men into this lifestyle for their own benefit, and they almost take advantage of, you know,
those type of kids. Yeah.
Those type of kids.
That's a fact. Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, you got Jordans, you need to be wearing these. I can make you money.
Yeah. Just to help me with this thing.
So to a certain extent, single mothers, as you said, sometimes end up creating expectations for boys that
the issue with that
them to try and match that lifestyle on their own now. And there's also another side where you've got young boys out there that's on the streets or that's doing road because they have been forced into that position of being a provider.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this and I was like, which parent in their right mind, let me learn, which parent in their right mind would ever consider A, ensuring that their children were doing those kind of things, and B, just entertaining the idea, period, taking money from them and also. And then I've seen some stories come out and I'm like,
it's a big thing.
What do you mean? So, because let's be honest, there are certain signs that your child is doing stuff. Not everybody, because there's some people that don't know. But if they're really good at and hiding it, cool. But there's, you know, when they've got 12 pairs of trainers in the house and you not bought a pair.
Anton, you've got to realise that you've got some mums that have this complex where you've got mums that have daughters and they try and be best friends with their daughters.
I've seen that.
Right? And then you've got mums that have sons that want their son to be their king, their husband.
Yeah, I've seen that too. But nevertheless,
it's a
He's
problem.
going to jail.
He's going to jail.
He's going to jail.
But you've got to realize that they start seeing their son as a man from an age where he's not
not a man.
necessarily a man. And he doesn't necessarily have a male role model that's actually showing him what it is to be a man. And she is seeing him as a man based on her perception of what a man is, rather than
what a man's perception of what a man's
perception of a man is. So this boy now thinks, I'm a man because I'm going out there and I'm making quick money and I'm giving my mum £200 a week or £200.
I've been supporting my mum since I was 14.
Exactly, but
what do you mean, bruv? So your mum should have been supporting you.
There's also that
where when we look at it, it's a dangerous cycle, but
right, it is a state of mind, because if you think about it, if you remove the external factors, so the druggy mums and druggy dads and alcoholic mums and alcoholic dads, the issue is in poorer areas you find that there's an increase in these scenarios. Yeah. But if you remove them, then and you look at things at base value, in the UK in particular, because it's a great model to look at, then there really shouldn't be a hood. Because it's not like, no, because if you go to some places I remember when the first time I went to St. Vincent, and me being the ignorant British child that I am, I saw the houses that are made of just bits of steel and tin pan rooms, and I'm thinking it's sheds, and man, that's my yard, man. You know them ones there, and they've just cut out a piece of land, and that's what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're surviving.
Most people in the UK do not live like that.
No, this is the thing. I'm from Zimbabwe.
Yeah, which is why you've got this outlook.
Which is probably one of the, or classed as one of the poorest, which is probably one of the richest countries in the world, but
still
that's another story. Yeah. And I mean, now you've got drug issues like, what would you call it? Crystal meth is
really? Is that hit Zimbabwe?
Yeah, it's a big thing in Zimbabwe, which is crazy. I've never seen this. But
you got it late. You got it at the point where it's already not cool anymore.
Yeah, it's a big thing right now in Zimbabwe. But generally, when you look at a lot of African countries, what are classed as the poorest countries, they still have a very, very low murder rate. They have a very low crime rate in terms of, violent crime.
Capitalism, my friend.
I believe that crime has a lot to do, or especially violent crime, gun crime. It has a lot to do with culture.
Go on.
I believe within our community, there is a culture of violence. We applaud violence. So let me give you an example. If we was in Imran's after a party and I came and slapped the shit out of you and you didn't do nothing about it,
he's gonna go get his boys.
Go on.
No, people are gonna say Anton's a pussy.
Oh, that's a fact. Right. Yeah, I can't let
and
you.
I can't laugh after you.
I can't let you do that. Yeah, that's a fact.
But at the same time, if you was to retaliate and beat the shit out of me, or even much less stab me, you then...
Yeah. I get kudos for that.
You get kudos. You don't play with Anton. Yeah. So we applaud that.
I get it, but I don't.
We don't applaud... we don't applaud conflict resolution. We don't applaud...
Ever. You're not even allowed.
Yeah, de-escalate the situation. For me, I remember when I was very young, I seen my dad in a situation, that could have turned violent, and he de-escalated it. And I learned from that, and I've kind of used that, going through life, and it works for me. Whereas you find that
de-escalate doesn't work, right? It never works.
We like violence.
Yeah.
Violent people are cool.
Yeah.
Are you saying that even though we're free, we've still got prison mentality?
We definitely do. We're still stuck in... we have a culture that... We have a violent culture. We have an ignorant culture. But then when we see the repercussions of it, we're like, oh, everybody's against us.
So you think it looks stupid on paper because you're almost doing all of the stuff that's going to get you sent down whatever particular road, and then you'll turn around and cry at the repercussions of your actions in the first
When you
place.
think about it, it's like some of the situations that have led to people going to prison within our community are situations where if you were to apply them to other people or other men, they'd laugh and say, how did you end up killing this person over this? And you could just talk it out. Or I tell you to go suck your mum and you stab me.
Yeah.
I tell you you're a dickhead, or I tell you you're stupid.
You get shot.
You get shot for
Take
that.
it too far. So people
That
are using their
culture.
fists.
That's not
Because what have you actually shot him for? Yeah?
That has
You're not
nothing
protecting
to do
anybody.
with socioeconomics. You can't tell me you were so hungry that I told you to go suck your mum and you decided to kill me because
No, what I meant by socioeconomics is socioeconomic status sometimes, not in all cases, but you'll find certain behaviors. So when people talk about stabbings, for example, there's a lot of stabbings that happen in the poor black community. It's a fact. I'm not going to deny it.
it's because there's a culture of it.
Hold on. But if you go to poor places that have white people, you will still find high levels of stabbing.
Right.
If you go to very poor places, you'll still find those same scenarios where you see the Orton scenario that I mentioned. That wasn't black boys.
Yeah.
That was white kids.
I think the optics are starting to change now.
Bro, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think now, especially, it's like, I've been thinking about it. It's like, okay, these stereotypes that are being sort of perpetuated over the years to say, your black boy is the drug dealer. Your black boy is the one that's going to stab somebody. Now it's like, and back in the days, if you heard somebody got shot, it probably happened in, certain areas.
Yeah, I think that we have a tendency as a people to take things far.
No.
But I don't necessarily think.
I think amongst ourselves, we have, like, in terms of verbal confrontations, a lot of people can't handle verbal confrontations.
Yeah, because I disrespect, man.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Some of the things that we take as disrespect in other
cultures.
the cultures.
But I think
it's just
Use things
communication, basically.
Well,
So if I tell you, you're stupid, Anton, what you just did right there is stupid, fam. Or if I tell you, Anton, you just played fuckery. You're not gonna take that person and want to box me down. Oh, what do you mean I played fuckery? Oh, yeah, disrespect me.
Yeah, but that's why I keep saying it's socioeconomic, because growing up around white kids, bro, I went. if I told the man,
class.
that's still socioeconomic.
No, but what I'm saying,
That's still socioeconomic, though, isn't it? Like I grew up in a poor council estate, right? In that poor council estate, the first person I had a fight with was a white kid because I was taking the piss out of him. Yeah, that was the first. That was literally, and he couldn't take what I was dishing out. As soon as the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is because I changed schools. When I changed schools, everything was different. Like, you could say what you like. These kids were going around free. They were saying whatever they wanted. And you'd have to go way further for it to end up in a physical confrontation. Whereas the first schools that I went to, if I called you stupid in my first, it's a fight immediately on the spot. How dare you? Right. So I almost feel that sometimes black people get painted with the brush of, okay, you're this, you're that, and you're this, you're that. When I always feel that, yeah, it is classist and it is more based on the poor people, like behaviors. And sorry to throw poor people under the bus.
Black people have a hothead culture?
There is that.
Depends on where you're from, I reckon.
Go on then.
Personally, I reckon. I'm not going to get myself kicked up.
No, man, talk.
No. I found that living in different countries, I see the different cultures and the different response that people have to aggression.
Okay, so what countries have you lived in?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man, you might as well tell them.
So Guyana, Jamaica, England.
Okay.
And I found that a lot of the aggressive folks from certain countries that I lived in, nobody spoke about anything. It ended up in a brawl, more likely than not, let's say, in Jamaica. So a lot of people fought a lot more over there than when I came over here. And even going back, you see people, a lot of the times we're not talking out things. Again, it just, not just,
All right.
let's say, Sheffield and London. You might go to certain areas in London where the hotheads are
Yeah, because they grew up that way.
because they grew up in
So it's like-
that
All right,
environment.
No.
The inner city areas, the inner city sort of
I live in
communities
the rural
tend to
parts,
have
anyway.
a hothead culture, tend to be less diplomatic.
Yes, I agree with that statement. But why?
I find that it's actually, for me personally, the first time do you know what? I say we are a bit hotheads, but no, we are. I would agree.
We're skirting around
No, because
Remove your personal.
I'm gonna
speak macro.
No, I'm gonna speak macro. What I'm getting at is the first time that I saw black people not being hotheads, the first time was when I came to university.
I was about to say university.
That was
They've
literally,
grown out of
and the reason for that was because people were either on my wavelength or even further afield. And I think that the first time I really saw it was when I saw that there was an African girl. I don't know what country she's from, but from her accent, I knew she was African. And she was trying to do this conflict resolution with a British girl.
Mm-hmm.
And the British girl wasn't having it. And you could blatantly see that this African girl, she was big in stature. She looked quite powerful. I'm not saying that, but from just looking at the optics, it looked like if the African girl was ready, it was over. Yeah, for this little British. She was yapping like a Yorkshire Terrier. You know them ones. She's going at her. And what I heard the African girl argue with her, but what she was saying is, why are we fighting over this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not a necessary scenario to go down this route. And I think that was the first time I saw anything. I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a point.
Anton, we have to look into family structures.
How has this got to do with it? Go on then.
It's got everything to do with it.
Yeah, you love going in a family structure, something, brother.
Okay then. I mean this to, I said this to say, when you look at a single parent family structure and a dual parent family structure, the children that come from a dual parent family structure are going to be more likely to have a more balanced approach towards conflict resolution compared to a single parent family structure.
Because they only get one side.
They only get one side. So if somebody grew up with their mom, they can only resolve conflicts in the ways that the mom. So for example, if you've got siblings and you and your siblings end up in an argument, the highest form of authority is mom. If the highest form of authority is mom, that resolution is going to be based on mom's perception.
And if it's one-sided, it's a wrap.
And if it's one-sided, it's a wrap. You learn to resolve conflicts from home. Whereas
that's true.
So whereas if you come from a dual parent family, you might find that sometimes mom and dad might differ in how they would resolve a conflict.
Fact, yeah. But that then also...
Dad might take a more logical approach, whereas mom would take more of an emotional approach. This is not to sound misogynistic to all you flipping feminists, right? What I'm trying to say is... women are emotional creatures and men are more logical, right? So if you grow up with just a woman's perspective, you're going to be more emotional in your conflict resolution. Whereas if you grow up with mom and dad, you're going to be more balanced because you're going to think, all right, then just generally it molds how you resolve conflicts.
So are we saying in the area?
Sometimes your dad would be like, sometimes your mom would go crazy at certain things that your dad would be calm about.
That is a fact.
Just like with me and my kids and their moms.
That is a fact.
Do you know what I mean? I've had situations with my kids where I look at it and see how the mums react to it. Like, mom's going crazy, and I'm just like,
That's a fact.
it's like, chill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So people are gonna feel some type of way about what you say, but that's actually when you say that, that's true because out of my parents, it's definitely my mom that's flying off the handle first. Like it's
Exactly. Whereas your dad is the one that's gonna kind of sit back,
every time,
assess the situation,
every time,
and you know, like.
That is true.
I was in your.
My mum's a hide.
So what you're saying is, if you are,
So your dad has the last say. He's the one that'll be like, okay.
I have the last say in my house.
He's diplomatic, but they both are, so. But yeah, I do agree with that statement. But are you saying that in areas where a lot of people the majority are flighty, it's from single parent homes?
If you do the stats, I bet you'd find that there's a lot.
Is that what you're concluding?
In those areas.
You love one.
Am I lying?
I'm just saying, I'm just asking you a question.
No, I don't
It's not bold.
I don't want to make sweeping statements, but I'm saying, right, in these ghetto areas, let's not fucking kid ourselves.
Oh yeah, it's high. It's high. The tendencies for high single parents.
The chances of having a single parent household in Totley is
it's low. And do you know what I also find? What I find in those scenarios is even when the parents break down, they somehow manage to find an alternative father figure or mother figure in those scenarios. So they end up neatening up the thing anyway. Like, I don't know how it works, but
culture.
Middle class, I'm just, do you get to get this area? I don't get it. Go on.
Culture.
Elaborate for me, please,
The
young
girl
man.
that's managed to make her way into the middle class, the black girl that's managed to had some kind of balance.
Okay.
Whereas you find that person that's stuck in the hood mentally hasn't necessarily had that. So she doesn't necessarily see the need to replace that father figure.
Okay.
Because she's been raised to think you can do it on your own.
Because that's what she's seen.
That's what she's seen, but that's the culture.
What does that have? What does all that have to do with the hood being a state of mind? So I moved to, I don't want to mention ends in case somebody gets offended, but I moved to a certain ends, and that is the hood, and therefore there's a lot of fuckeries that are going on around me. Am I not calling that the hood?
It's the hood because of the state of mind of the people there. Because technically, those people could turn that into, they could gentrify it.
Yes, they could.
Black people could have gentrified Pittsmore and owned it. Just like how the Asian
people do.
Fucking...
And that thing they do well.
Yeah.
I mean, around where, have you seen Aberdeen Road, all them houses on there? It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
And it proves the fact that the hood is a mental state. It's nothing to do with the Pittsmore.
Yeah, I heard it one time.
Area.
Yeah, I heard it one time. Pittsmore was an affluent area. Yeah.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
The only reason why it wasn't developed to other standards is because people had this mentality. It's the mentality of the people. They didn't think, you know what, we can turn the Wicker and Spittle Hill into a powerhouse. Because black people had that in their hands. Or at least one section of the black community. Now it's been moved on to the Kurds and the Asians and the Somalis or whatever. But it still stands at the fact that look at the people that are in country. Look at. There's not to take away from the people before, but look at the economic system on Spittle Hill. Look at the economic system on the Wicker.
Why do we struggle as a people to maintain an area in a positive light? What's preventing us from doing that? I don't know, we just ask.
It's a good question.
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that either. No, but I'm guessing it's a series of
It's a lack of cohesion.
Excuse me?
The lack of cohesion.
Elaborate.
On our side.
Elaborate.
In the sense of when you look at... When black people think of business, they think of business individually. They don't think of umbrella. Business to say, all right, and we're going to take over the Wicker and turn it into a black area. a black sort of economic
So
system.
what you're saying is we're still working in single file.
Yeah, it's a very individualistic sort of mentality. So if somebody decides they're going to open a business, they're just thinking, I'm going to open a business and make it. They don't necessarily have a collective of other people that are looking to invest in business that would say
like-minded people.
Like-minded people that would say, all right, then let's do this. All right, do you need a help there or whatever? All right, then let's pull.
Same reason why we don't have middle-class black areas.
So why do you think when you go into certain areas now, you've got a chain of Asian shops?
Yeah, right next to each other.
Next to each other.
Doing all right, selling the same stuff. And
Selling the same stuff and still doing well. Whereas in our community, you've got one shop on City Road, one shop on London Road.
You got to travel for your stuff.
You've got to travel here, there, and everywhere for black shops. You don't necessarily have a strip.
It's not a cluster.
Why don't we have strips? Look at fucking Curry Mile in Manchester. A whole mile of just Curry Mile. So you think you couldn't have a little? Think about a little Caribbean or a little Jamaica, just in Sheffield.
We don't have a little Jamaica anywhere. Period.
But you've got a Chinatown.
Yeah, I know.
In every city.
Every country.
In every city, in every country.
Yeah, but do you think that some of that's down to, as much as we want to blame individuals and our own people, do you think some of that's down to the additional fights that we have as a people? Because
we are the biggest fucking consumers in the world.
I hear you, but hold on. We literally have the biggest fight of every race. Every race.
We have the biggest fight of every race, but we fight each other most.
To an extent, I agree with what Anton said, because if you go to, let's say you go to Zimbabwe, I'm sure there's affluent areas in Zimbabwe that are predominantly black.
It's a little different though, isn't it? Because I guess
there's affluent places in Guyana that are
predominantly black.
Well, the most affluent areas are predominantly white.
Okay.
The most.
Like, if you go to Zimbabwe, everybody will tell you Borrowdale. Yeah, you got black people, but
a few. Is it sprinkled?
There'll be enough black people in
Zimbabwe. You got black millionaires. Zimbabwe's produced a lot of millionaires. Zimbabwe's produced more millionaires than fucking America.
Oh, okay. What's a big country?
But it's still kind of.
So you're basically saying we're still our worst enemy.
Well,
I suppose when you look at
culture-wise, we just have a fucked up culture.
Yeah, listen to Yaksai, it tells you everything you need to know, man. I think when you start talking about our spending power as a community, it is humongous, and I think that no, it is humongous. When you see it on paper, when you look at it and you see it on paper, you feel disgusted because our spending power does not match our business acumen. Our spending power doesn't match the business setup in any particular area. Now, if you think about Sheffield right now, what area would you say that the black community have a good hold on?
None.
I don't know.
And that's ridiculous because as a people, look, when obviously you're an African guy, but from a Caribbean perspective, we came here time ago.
And we had Pittsmore on a lot.
Pittsmore was the area. Not Pittsmore, but that area. It felt like a little. S5
it was very Caribbean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back in, not even that long ago, but.
In order to be respected, you have to buy up land.
No, never buy the land, but you have to have some kind of influence in certain areas. So right now, when you go into certain area, what area can you go where you can say, all right, then, if I want everything Jamaican or Caribbean, much less, I can go to this area and find hair, food, I can get my hair done, I can get a record shop.
That would have been Spill Hill, wouldn't it?
It was Spill Hill at one point. I remember one time in Plaza, you could go upstairs and party in Plaza. Downstairs, you had facelift barbers. Around the corner, you had Blue Mountain, which was selling Caribbean food.
Yeah.
Next door to the barbers, you had Unique Sounds, which was selling CDs and shit. And then next door to that, you had Nikki that was doing hair. And then you had a liquor store right next to that, which was run by black people. Yeah. I remember, I saw this.
So what happened?
So how?
And then you had Donkey Man's.
Down the
road. So you could go party there.
Yeah, so okay.
And you had Cactus.
Okay, so what happened?
Just around the corner.
What happened?
What was the breakdown? Was it just that one particular building?
I believe there was
I
believe there was an effort
to get pushed out.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay.
Do you remember when I said land?
Okay, there's two points. One,
From a policing perspective, I believe the council actually did a contrived sort of effort to disperse black people.
Why?
Because black people could have collectively, they had the potential to collectively, for example, own Pittsmore and control.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about.
Area.
That's what I'm talking about. Fight.
So there's this, I don't think it's necessarily a fight, it's economics.
That's still a fight, bro.
It's not a fight, it's economics.
It's still a fight, though.
No, fam, it's economics, it's not a fight. This whole victim fucking complex about it's a fight.
No, I didn't say anything about victim. I said it was a fight. Business is a fight.
Yeah, but you have to use the terminology that
is sort of realistic in that realm of things, i.e., this is economics. This is gentrification.
Okay.
And if we're going to gentrify this area, we're going to move these people out.
So why does it work for black people and it doesn't work for everybody else? So why? So we're talking about, so you just mentioned that.
Because black people don't care about ownership.
So what did I just say earlier? Bro, you see, if you own that land.
But you can't buy land over here. It's not that easy. It's expensive.
No, it's not.
Well.
No, you can buy land. We just don't. Yeah, it's expensive.
Thing is, a lot of the Asian community, for example,
Focus on buying property rather than buying land.
Okay.
Buying property, renting it out.
Okay, buying property is almost just as good as buying land.
And
because in the sense where, okay, if you buy the property, people can't just move you.
Yeah, but it's very difficult and expensive to buy land from.
No, what I'm getting at is when I said land, I was including property.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy property in a particular area, it makes it a lot harder for people to gentrify the area and move you out.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably where we're lacking.
Yeah, we definitely are.
And
because you'll find that
people to attain that.
You be more. It is, but nevertheless, he just mentioned about 6 businesses in one area. So yeah,
so we actually had it.
Yeah, that's my point.
Had it.
Yeah, but did we own where we were doing our businesses?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing we didn't own. We were renting.
I believe
We were renting.
I don't know the full. Yeah, but
they were renting. With more time, they would be renting. And whenever you're renting, you are victim to whoever owns the property or the land. Now, if you own property or land and you set up these businesses, it's a lot harder for
someone to come and
run you out. So if we had 6 shops and we owned those 6 buildings,
shops, yeah,
then
it's up
you're
to
not
us.
okay. So what do Chinese people do when they get here? You've seen what they've done. You've seen what they've done. You've seen them bought out this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
You can't move them from there now. They own that.
That's life.
They own that now. So I think a lot of the issues that black people face is down to ownership. And I know it sounds like it's but it literally is.
Yeah.
If we had ownership in a community bubble, we wouldn't necessarily face those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that would then deter the dispersion of black people and probably would promote business going forward.
Yeah, but the dispersion's happened in a way that now they looked at Pittsmore, realised these people don't really own nothing. So people do, not to take away from anybody, and I'm using Pittsmore as, that would have been the textbook example of what you would call a black area. There's other areas as well, but just for argument's sake, now you find that the council, with their letting system, and because people are constantly moving, instead of moving them around these areas, they move them out of these areas.
Mm-hmm.
So
because they can.
15 years ago or 20 years ago, what used to be a predominantly Caribbean community is no longer that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have been moved to different areas and scattered around, which is good but bad.
How's it good?
It's still the hood. Just because you move black people out doesn't mean it's not the hood.
This is the thing, though.
You're saying it's a state of mind.
So I think it actually proves the point that the hood is a state of mind, because back in the days, the hood used to be a concentrated area.
Right.
It comes from the projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
What used to be the projects back in the days. So them people there, they had genuine sort of, them people that grew up in the projects.
I'm listening. I hear what you're saying.
They created that culture, that hood mentality.
Uh-huh.
And then people in other places took up that hood mentality through pop culture.
Okay.
But really, it's like, okay, then when you look now, these areas that used to be apparently black areas don't necessarily have a concentration of the same kind of people. Some of these people live in Broomhill. Some of them live in Nether Edge. Some of them live in Tinsley. Some of them live in Manor. Some live in Arbourthorne, Totley. All these areas. Black people are not necessarily concentrated in one place now. But you still have the hood.
Gentrification.
So gentrification has proved that
the hood is a state of mind.
The hood is a state of mind.
Well, we know that anyway from when the area gets bought up and people get moved in and moved out and everything. Because you can clean an area up.
You can clean an area up.
Yeah, you can literally buy out the place.
And black people could have technically bought out of the place. Do you know what I mean? They have had access to resources. They have had access to education.
Some people challenge you when they say they have access to resources. Remember, they've had all kinds of banking issues. There's times where the banks... predominantly, because it's not necessarily our generation we're talking about the generation before, and those people point blankly got refused by certain banks in certain scenarios. So there are external factors, and if you're not coming, the disadvantage that you have as I don't even want to say this, but I'll scrap it. Right. The disadvantage you'll have if you've come over here to make a life for yourself, that means you've not come over with reams of money, which means that if you are then looking to move forward and buy up land, and you're going to have to rely on the institutions that are around you. If the institutions are failing you, then...
So there's no equity where access to capital is concerned. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are still the biggest spenders.
Yeah, I know. I know. And it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
You find that the majority of, you've got quite a lot of black people that are driving nice cars. They are driving nice cars, and most of them are unfinanced. Yeah, so you can't say that we don't have access to funds, even though some institutions would rather give you finance for a car.
You're mixing two things up though, because I'm talking about the state that we're in now as a people is really due to the generation before us. Yeah, a lot of the habits, a lot of the family structures, everything that's been learned is due to literally the generation above us, my parents' generation. And they were the ones that kind of got the hardest fight.
So it's inherited trauma.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I agree with that. 100%. So the finance on car scenario is not really an argument, because that's something that's come around really in the last 10 years, really. Now what we're talking about is them guys who come over either from the island or they grew up here, and they're not getting the same access to finance and opportunities.
Okay, the funny thing is, sorry, I don't mean to
use that famous phrase here.
I remember one of the biggest eye openers for me was, I remember when I was working for the council, right? And I used to have a thing where when it came to lunchtime, I'd go and buy lunch.
Okay.
And all these people used to look at me like, you're rich.
Because you didn't.
How can you afford to buy lunch every day? So they used to bring a packed lunch.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that I learned working with white people is they are fucking tight. But they all had money put down.
I think that
our spending habits are wild compared to white people.
Okay, I will agree with you. I'm not going to say they're tight. What I will say is I will agree with you that
they don't indulge like how we do.
Yeah, that part is true. I
remember mentioning certain brands and everything, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" You know what's normal to me? To them, it's like they don't buy. They don't brand whores.
We have a habit of when we have a little bit of money. It's not everybody. It's not generalized, but on a macro level, when we have a little bit of money, overstretching.
Yeah, but some people overstretch on credit.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's and some of that is education with money. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I've worked with people who are way tighter than even I am, and they're doing better than I am. You know what I'm saying? They're not. Their car is not as nice, but they own their own house. You know them ones, yeah? And they're eating sandwiches with cheese for lunch.
Exactly.
And I'm buying £5 lunch out of the cafeteria. Yeah.
It's when
that looks. Wait a minute, what's going on here?
But when you look at it,
yeah, he's richer than you.
When you look at it, right? So many people that have excelled in business, they made sacrifices that we are able to make. But we're able to.
Have you watched the real Rick Ross interviews? The reason why he's separate from the rest of us is because he literally said, like, although what he was doing was wrong.
He don't drink.
He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink. He doesn't buy clothes.
Just like 50.
Yes. So 50's business acumen is amazing. He will tell you, 50 don't even buy. He said the only time he buy himself a car is when he's made a good business deal. Which means the business deal is paying for the car. You understand? He's not taking any money out of his own pocket to buy that car.
You don't spend your earnings.
You don't spend your earnings.
Passive income.
Right. And that, as a people, we need education on how to manage our finances better.
So you think we're not financially literate?
No.
From a personal standpoint, I'll say I definitely wasn't financial literate. I'm learning financial literacy now, like in the last 5 years. It's ridiculous.
Which is dangerous.
I'm a big ass man with 4 kids. What do you mean?
Dangerous because I think a lot of people are kind of falling into the wave of, for example, cryptocurrency and everything without a solid financial sort of background.
Yeah.
And that's going to lead to, in the long run, a lot of unwise investments.
They say that if you are unwise in your investments, you're likely to lose your money.
Yeah.
Although if you look into cryptocurrency, it looks like it's going in a positive light, so I don't know. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But to me, even if you're looking at cryptocurrency, for example, you're still way ahead of the game in the sense where you're still thinking about finance. You're still thinking about finance. Whereas some people are just not thinking about investing, period.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I look at my lifestyle between 18 and 28, I'm not saying I was balling, but my point, I wasted so much money.
You could have had a lot more.
Yeah.
And then again, it goes to that. It goes back to what? Culture and lifestyle.
That's some of that. Yeah. Well, I've never been this big Balenciaga guy, but nevertheless, I've still wasted a bag of money on cars and a bag of money on this and
little things, fam. It's the little things. When I look at my bank statement,
it's not the little things.
It's not the big spending.
It's the little day-to-day things that you could have done without.
Little after £7.99.
Yeah, so
they amount to £100 quickly.
I think we've got to the point we are not utilizing our financial power correctly. So regardless of external circumstances, and I'm not saying they're not there because I already know they're there. I've seen them. I've been through some of them myself. We are not utilizing our financial power correctly because finance is power.
So you look at some of the most powerful men and you hear their stories.
Oh, fam, they're just drag.
They made some crazy sacrifices.
Yes.
I was sleeping in a car when I was studying at university.
Yeah. This is how far are you willing to go?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some of these people were homeless.
Yeah. A lot of these people were homeless. A lot of the people were homeless that are now wealthy and doing
But
well.
we're so...
Yeah, we are.
We have this pride.
We've got to have this. We've got to have that. We've got to have this.
Yeah.
And we're not even great examples of what we're talking about because we know some people that really, money's passed through their hands, but they just waste it.
Yeah.
So I think finance.
Our idea of success is brands. It's being able to buy the latest car. So if I make my first 100 grand, I'm going to buy a fucking Range Rover.
So do you think it's...
Whereas somebody else is thinking 100 grand, shit.
Nice too.
100 grand is like £10 to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you got a bigger vision.
Yeah.
Because if you're capable of making 100 grand, you're capable of making
a million.
10 million.
Yeah, facts. Absolutely facts. But, so do you think financial education from a young age would stop all of this scenario, in your opinion? Because I've been out here trying to tell my children what I'm learning now.
Yeah, the financial education is essential. I think we've just never really focused on that. We've never focused on the importance of investment. Never focused on the importance of
investments. It's sad.
I mean, obviously, you've got to take into consideration the chains and images of psychological slavery.
Yeah,
mean that we are inherently consumers.
Yeah.
Rather than investors.
And that's why I don't want to go too overboard because I heard somebody say, well, we only started getting money the other day.
No, we've been getting money.
The other day?
No, we've been getting money.
For how long? You not been getting money. How long have we been getting money for?
People have been getting money for
how long?
for a long time. Think about it right now. Look at the dancehall scene.
No, I'm talking before then.
Even before then.
No, I'm talking about grandparents and before then.
They're being
Because that
money.
What money are you talking about? Your grandparents, bro?
You might be talking about your granddad. My granddad wasn't getting money like that. Yeah, you gotta remember, I'm coming from a place my granddad couldn't read.
I can't relate to that.
Yeah, that's what I said. My granddad wasn't an educated man like that, is he? Yeah. Okay, well, a lot of the people in the UK are from a Caribbean background. I'm not saying that all their grandparents could read, but okay,
I can't
they're coming from a ghetto mentality already.
Yeah, obviously my heritage.
It's different. Yeah,
it was a wealthy man with a lot of
in Africa, bro.
Yeah.
It's a different set of circumstances. Yeah. Well, a lot of black people only started getting money yesterday. When I say yesterday, I'm talking about 2 generations back tops.
But even the ones that were making money, that were considered to be making money then, had the same attributes.
I don't think so. I don't know. I almost feel like the last generation kind of fell off the wayside a little bit.
How many black people would you class as wealthy?
Not that many. Well, but the grandparents' generation seemed a little smarter than the
rich people.
Parents that came after them.
Rich people, black people being rich.
Yeah, because they make money,
but not wealthy.
Yeah.
Do you think we're setting better examples for the next generation?
I think we understand more.
The next generation are setting examples for us.
To be fair, the youngers them are doing their thing.
Teaching you about stuff.
Yeah. So it's all about finance.
It's been a pretty been nice talking to you guys.
The hood is a state of mind.
No, we got 7%. You got 7%.
Yeah, the hood is a state of mind. We've got 7%. So we are going to lock off, but it's
So next time, bro.
we're trying towards. Can we just plug in the next?
How do you want to drop it?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So the next one we are planning on having a 1-to-1 with Sadaka. I've had a talk with the chairman, and I believe it's good to have for Sadaka as a community centre to engage with the community. So we are going to be having an episode that will be filmed at Sadaka, and we're going to be, having a talk, asking questions, and just getting up to speed with what's going on and what the future holds for Sadaka and the community. So make sure you look out for that. And
it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. I'm going to put it out there as well. So if you've got questions,
there you go.
Q&A.
We want to know what you want to ask. What are the burning questions that you got for Sadaka?
What are your burning questions? Like, a lot of people seem to be disconnected, discontent with Sadaka or whatever. Let's have that conversation. So we'll be cascading that out there and giving people the opportunity to engage. So yeah, look out for that. But
until next time,
it's your boy DJ Busy and
Scotch Vibes.
Come on, make it that thing.
DJ's waiting.
I thought you were putting this.